Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We're beginning our series entitled Financial Wellness from Pandemic to Prosperity. The idea of the series came out of discussions amongst individuals asking pertinent information about retirement, investing, and debt management. The overall pace of the series is 4 Sundays starting at 2 p.m. Today, we will discuss Social Security and estate planning. August 2nd, we will discuss on debt consolidation, rent versus buying. August 9th, budgeting, investment. August 16th, entrepreneurship. All through the series, we will tie these topics to stewardship and spiritual stewardship. So today, we will start with Social Security. If we have any questions at any time during the presentation, please upload them to the chat option. There will be designated time for Q&A after both presenters present today. Once again, any questions, post it in the chat option, and then we will answer those questions at the 30 minutes. Sharika Walker earned her bachelor's in public health biology from the University of St. Joseph in 2016. Currently, she works with Social Security Administration as a claims specialist over the past year. Apart from her duties in the Treasury Department and Youth Department of Charity Estate Church, Sharika loves to try new things, especially eating food, travel, and spending time with loved ones. And let the Lord lead her in all aspects of her life. Sharika?
Can you hear me now? All right. Okay, thank you, Elder Scarlett, for that introduction. Again, let me pull up my information here. Just give me 1 second. Oops. One, two, four. All right. So thank you again, Elder Scarlett. Thank you for having me. And I just want to say welcome again for you guys logging on and being a part of our financial series. I'm glad to be here and I'm excited. Okay. So let me this here. Okay, so for more than 80 years, Social Security has helped the security for today and tomorrow by providing benefits and financial protection for millions, both directly and indirectly. So a lot of people ask me, where's Social Security? Where are we located? So we actually have different offices in various places in Connecticut, but these are just the main ones I wanted to pinpoint because of the demographic online. So the main ones that we have is Hartford downtown. Also, we have an office in East Hartford, also Waterbury, Middletown, and New Britain. and your service office depends on where you live. So if you wanted to do anything with Social Security, definitely find out what service office you would be using. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we are closed to the public, but we are still offering services over the phone and online. And our hours are about the same, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And like I was saying, we also offer services online. So if you don't have a My Social Security account, you can definitely set one up and see what services you can sign up for or see what is available for you online. Different things that we have online is you can try to request for a Social Security card, depending on your situation. You can try to retire online. You can apply for disability. You can get your 1099. There's different things that you can do online. So definitely, if you want to look into that, definitely let me know. So Social Security is with you from day one. Whether it's bringing a new child into the household or being with you when you're at work, you know, taking your tax money. We are also there for you when you get married, if you want to have a name change. And we're also there for you if you lose any loved ones or have any unexpected events happen in your lifetime. And the most important one is we're there for your retirement. So I'm just gonna go over just briefly different things that we do within Social Security, because it's not mostly retirement. There's other programs under our umbrella. And we just try to look out for the today and the tomorrow. We're part of the future for you guys. And then we're just making our way through your life's journey. One cool thing I wanted to share, we see thousands and thousands of different names within Social Security. So if you ever have trouble looking for a name for a new baby coming, we definitely have a list of many different names on our website. I actually had someone whose name was actually the alphabet. So we have different things to look through there. And also I wanted to touch upon, if you wanted to get a replacement card, you can definitely try to do that online, or we can send you out the form, and all you need is just like your driver's license or passport or any type of form of ID. And if it's a minor, you would just need some medical records or school records. And like I said, we're there when you're working. So the big question is, who pays for Social Security? Most of you already know it is your tax dollars. So that ties into FICA, which is a Federal Insurance Contributions Act. And that's basically the federal payroll tax deducted from each paycheck. So you know how you look on your paycheck, you see Social Security getting taken out. So that is basically taking care of those who are disabled, retirees, disabled children, and all that is tied into it. And it also ties into the Medicare program. And did you know 180 million workers will pay Social Security taxes in 2020? I bet you didn't know that. And about 94% of all workers are covered or eligible under Social Security. So again, the money that you're putting into as you work is going right back into Social Security. So that's why we always have to look at how much you've worked in order to be entitled to Social Security. And here is just showing just the beneficiaries. most of our Social Security benefits are going to a lot of retired people. And again, like I said, there's other programs, which is SSI, disability, and others under our umbrella, but mostly it's Social Security retirees with $60.9 million going to them. Okay, and did you know December of 2019, 3.1 million dependents of retired workers were receiving $2.4 billion in Social Security each month. So again, that money is definitely going to those retirees, disabled children, veterans, like all that is tied into it. And that's where we pull that pool. And at the same time, 1.5 million dependents of disabled workers were receiving $602 million in monthly Social Security benefits. And I also get the questions of, oh, if I'm married, am I entitled to my spouse's benefits? And it all depends on how long we've been married to each other and how much that your spouse has worked into the system. But it's definitely something to look into once you and your spouse retire. But you are potentially allowed 50% of your spouse's benefits if he qualifies for it, or if they. So definitely to look into, but you have to be married for 10 years or more in order to qualify. And then I also get the question of the divorced spouses. You can get benefits off a divorced spouse, but you cannot be married and you have to be of retirement age. So again, that's another program that we have. So definitely important to look into the requirements. And like I was saying, disability is one of our other programs. As of December 2019, Social Security paid an average monthly disability benefit of $1,122.23. And that's barely enough to keep a beneficiary above the poverty guidelines. And I know a lot of people are saying, like, how come we don't get more? How come, you know, I should be getting more monthly? But it all depends on what's in that Social Security pool. And according to US Census Bureau, 56.7 million people living in the United States, 19% of the population live with a disability, and 13% of that live with a severe disability. So there's a lot of people using our services, and a lot of people don't know that they could be entitled to our services. And this is just our programs. There's SSDI, SSI. SSI is more like a welfare program. SSDI is a disability program, but we also look at your work credits and how much you've worked into the system. And we also have the program of survivor benefits. If you have a loved one or a spouse that passed away, you can definitely see if you can be entitled to the lump sum benefit, and it's about, I think this year is $255, but it's just a one-time payment. All right, so the big one that we want to focus on is retirement. So as of December 2019, 45.1 million retired workers were receiving $67.8 billion in Social Security benefits per month. And at the same time, 3.1 million dependents of retired workers were receiving $2.4 billion in monthly Social Security benefits. So again, a lot of people ask me, how do I qualify? How can I get retirement? So again, it is very important that you work into Social Security in order to qualify. So you need about 40 credits of work, which is 10 years of work, and you have to be the age of 62 or older. And 62 is the early retirement age. And depending on your birthday, I think the average Social Security full retirement age is 66. For me, it's 67, year 2060. So a long way to go. But yeah, those are definitely the top requirements that you must have. And each year that you work, you accumulate 4 credits per year. So if you go to our office and you say that, you know, if we tell you that, oh, you don't necessarily have 40 credits yet, you can still continue to work in order to accumulate those credits. Okay, so another question a lot of people ask me is, if I retire early, what's the difference if I wait until full retirement? And again, we are looking at a reduced benefit amount versus you retiring at 62, then versus you retiring at 66 or 67. So this graph is just showing that difference. If your benefit at 66 was supposed to be $1,000 monthly, but you decided to retire at 62, then your benefit gets reduced there. So that's definitely something to think about if you want to retire early. And again, like I was saying, your full retirement age depends on your year of birth. So yeah, right. I think right now for the baby boomers, we're at 66 right now. And then later on is 67. So again, I have a long way to go. But if I decided to retire early, my benefit can be reduced by 30%. And that's a big jump. So it all depends what you prefer, if you want to keep working or hold on. Okay, and then this is just showing like Social Security is part of your pre-retirement and post-retirement plans, but also we want you to keep in mind that we are only like 40% of your income. So it's good to invest in different things, see what else is out there. And this is why we have this series. We want you to know, yes, you have Social Security, but it's good to look into your pension plan at work or any investments, any stocks, bonds, any other income you can be getting when you retire. It's definitely important to look at that. And then online, we definitely have a retirement estimator tool. So if you're not really sure on how much you would be getting on a monthly benefit once you retire, you can definitely try to see what you could be getting monthly. But again, it would be an estimate, but it's good to see. So when you're planning out your income, you can see like, okay, if I'm getting $1,000 here, what else can help me to cover the bills and other expenses. And again, we have different calculators online, retirement, earnings, all other good stuff. So another thing people always ask is, okay, if I take full retirement, can I still work? Yes, you can still work. You can work as much money as you want. You could be making $1 million a year and you still get Social Security. But it's very important that you have to keep in mind that that's only for full retirement age. If you decide to take retirement at the age of 62, then we have to look at how much you're earning. So under full retirement age, the limit is $18,240 a year. And if you go over that limit, we withheld $1 for every $2 you go over this limit. And then if you have your full retirement age, like say if you want to retire like the same year, but before you turn 66 or 65, your limit is still $48,600 a year. And then we would withheld $1 for every $3 you make over that limit. So again, definitely something to keep in mind. Like, do you want to wait until full retirement so you can just keep working and we don't look at the limit, or take that on a little bit early? Okay, and I know a lot of people ask about Medicare. Again, I've been only working here for over a year, so I only know dibble dabble of Medicare, and it is confusing, but this is just the gist of it. So we have Medicare Part A, which is more hospital insurance, and that covers like hospital stays and all of that. And then Part B is medical insurance, so that will cover your doctor's visits, co-pays, and stuff like that. And then there's also Part C, which is an Advantage plan, and then Part D was his prescription drug plan that kind of helps you out, pay out those medication expenses. And this is just showing like who would qualify for Medicare. You have different situations where you can be younger to get Medicare, but it's only for specific health requirements. And then within Medicare, you have 3 different enrollment periods. You have initial, which is you sign up 3 months before your 61st birthday or 3 months after your birthday. And then general enrollment, January through March 31st. And then special enrollment is more for people who maybe they were working and then all of a sudden they can't work anymore and they don't have that coverage. So that special enrollment period would apply to them. And this is just showing when the Medicare Part B coverage would kick in. So if you go follow the guidelines of applying 3 months before your 65th birthday, the Part B will go into effect when you reach 65. But if you wait longer, like a month, you reach 65, then it will go in effect the month after you reach 65. So it's very important to keep up with the guidelines because you would most likely have to wait for that coverage to go into effect. But if you have any other questions, you can definitely contact Medicare directly, and they have their website, so you can definitely look into the different plans that would be more accessible for you. And again, there's like different forms that you can do online, or if you don't feel comfortable, you can definitely send in the completed form for Part A and Part B. And I know a lot of people ask about the Medicare card. It can be replaced. You can get a replacement card online, or you can definitely call us and we can send one out to you, okay? Yes, the new Medicare card number is no longer your Social Security number. That's what they used to do before, but they know there's a lot of scammers, hackers, and stuff like that going on. So they made sure to make a Medicare number directly for you, so it protects your identity. All right, and another question people always ask me is, by the time I retire, will I still be getting Social Security? That question is, they said that it will continue, but Congress has to make substantial modifications in order to make that happen. So we're all waiting and depending on Congress to make those modifications for us. But as of now, it's supposed to continue. But if certain acts or certain rules don't come into play, it can be reduced about 79%. So they said it's going to continue. It should continue. But as of now, there's no need to worry. Okay, and again, like I was saying, if you have any other questions, you can definitely call us, call your service office, or look for some of the services online that we have. And again, this is just the scheme of how it looks online when you go to my ssa.gov. It's just gonna show you different tabs on what you're looking for here. And this is just how you would see to make your personal account. And again, this is just what you can do online, replacement card. You can report your wages if you're getting benefits, get a Medicare card, all that good stuff. All right. So again, we are with you throughout life's journey. Just don't hesitate to call us or look at the services in order to help you. And you can also follow us on social media. And please, please, please write down your questions or type them into the chat so we can definitely go over that later on. Okay, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharika Walker, for all that information. I know I was taking down notes, especially 2035, when Social Security will be reduced by 79%. Now, we'll transition to estate planning. Our presenter is attorney Janet McCray. Attorney Janet McCray is a native of New York and currently hails from Connecticut. She loves the Lord Jesus Christ. She is a wife and mother of 2 brilliant daughters. She holds a bachelor's degree in business from Burrage College and a law degree from Quinnipiac University. She has a background in child support and family law. She is the youth ministry leader, educator, artist, alto, seamstress, and blessed with the gift of encouragement. Attorney McCray.
All right, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Hello, everybody. My avatar is 30 years old, so forgive me. First of all, I want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that you guys will learn from this presentation. It's just an overview. I know some things. I've been through a few estates, and I just wanted to put together an outline so that you can know how to start the process. You will need your financial advisors. You will need attorneys to actually start going through these things. So with that being said, I'm gonna switch to sharing my screen, and I'm hoping can you guys see it? Let's see. Hold on. All right. There we go. Can everyone see? All right, good. Thanks for the thumbs up. So, of course, we got to do fine print. That's what lawyers do. So I'm just giving you an outline. These are things to consider. It's information and education. You have to seek legal advice. Everyone's situation is different, but what I would like to start off by saying to you is think of it like this. Your loved ones are going to be grieving your loss. I'm going through that right now. And keep in mind that you want things to be as easy and succinct as possible so that while they're in the emotional part of it, they have the practical tools to take care of your affairs once you've passed away. So your individual needs will vary. So this is the basics. These are the tools. Okay, so let's think about it this way. What do I have? This is how we start the process. Before you get bogged down in legalese and how to write and how to draft, Most estate planning starts with answering questions like these. What do I have? Who depends on me? What will they need? Who do I owe? Less important, but still should be there. And what happens if I get sick? And then what will happen when I'm gone? So those are the basic questions. There might be more depending on your situation, but when you begin to plan your estate, those are basic tools to start. Then you want to take a stock of, what do I actually have? When planning your estate, you have to get a full picture of what you own. The value of each of these things will make up your estate. There are other things to consider, but again, these are good places to start. You have to know what your income streams are, what type of investments you have, what insurance policies you have. Insurance is important. It's usually the first thing we think of. People think of an estate, they think, okay, what are my insurance policies? But there's more to it. Personal property refers to your stuff. I learned this morning, thanks to my Pathfinders, I got a lot of stuff. When you want to know where your stuff's going to go, where it's going to wind up, your valuables, your jewelry, your cars, okay? Real property is your houses, your land, rental properties, timeshares, cough, cough, hope you don't have any. But if you have any real property, you want to take an assessment of where they are and what their values are. And what do you want to happen to them should you pass away? Also, if you have a business, in your business documents, you should have provisions if you pass away, if you're a principal. And then you also have to look into what's going on if you're just an employee. Okay, so all of those have to be taken into consideration. Debts and obligations, who you owe, they're low on the totem pole, but depending on how those obligations are structured, you should take those into account as well. Student loans, things like that. You've got to figure out what's going to happen to those things should I pass away. Okay. Next thing. All right. So next, it's who do I have? And my anecdotal answer for this is, who's going to come knocking? Who is going to be looking for you, your estate? Who are these people? What's going on? What's your immediate family? Your spouse, your dependents. And then you might have some relatives like godchildren, you know, aunts, uncles, grandparents that you kind of help now and then. They might be expecting some things. That niece that comes and sits at your bedside while you're ill. These are the people you've got to think about. So take stock of who they are and their ages. If you have adult children and you have minor children, they're going to have different needs and expectations. So when you're structuring your estate, your investments, your income, all these things are intertwined, but you have to consider, what will your spouse need? Are you paying the mortgage together? Do you have joint accounts? What does your spouse need you to leave for him or her should something happen? What do your children need? Do they have their eye on that Celica that's been sitting in the yard since 1980? You know, those tangible assets, who do you want to get those things? Also, too, if you're in business with other individuals, you should have a plan in place for in your personal documents and with the company to make sure of what happens. If you have retirement plans with your employer, you need to be clear on what will happen when you pass away or you retire. All of these things overlap in the other segments of this series. So I hope that you will come back to each of the sections, because all of these things intertwine. The memberships are entities that you belong to, you know, fraternities, sororities, you know, all different types of things where you've been paying into or you have an interest in. Say you started up a nonprofit. All of those things, some of the memberships and entities might have a death benefit. You want to plan for that. You might have some patents sitting out there, some stuff that you invented, some books you wrote that didn't get published. Little things like that is a full assessment of what happens when you pass away. So if you want to leave gifts to a charitable organization, that's another thing to consider. Say you belong to a church. When you pass away, you want to leave a donation, let's say to the Pathfinder Club. How are you going to pay for it? You've got to take that into consideration. So you have, if you have funds set aside, you set up accounts, all of that is part of your estate. And this is a lot, but again, this is an outline that you can use to start listing those things out. Next, when we think of estate planning, we always think about what happens when I die. But estate planning also includes the unlikely event that you're completely incapacitated. This is also a part of estate planning. And this is partially a testimony for me. I'm living through this right now. When you are able, you have to give these items some thought. And if you don't do anything this week, I'm giving you homework. Talk to someone and start thinking about these things. A healthcare proxy. It's a person who you trust, who can speak for you if you can't make medical decisions on your own. Unfortunately, it happens. You can get sick and someone has to speak for you. Now, in states like Connecticut and some other states, your spouse is automatically that person. But if you're single, if you're divorced, whatever it is, you've got to find out who that person can be and name them and draft this document. Long-term care. If you are working, you probably have a policy that provides for that. But if you need to go into the hospital for long periods of time, what does your insurance do? Where do you want to go? Think about those things as well. What facility would you prefer? How is that need going to be funded? Catastrophic health events are the #1 cause of bankruptcy in America. So knowing these costs, insuring yourself, which is a segment that's coming up, is very important. You have to be ready for this in that event. And then there's a living will. A living will is a legal document that tells others what your personal choices are and about your end of life medical treatment. It lays out procedures and medications that you want or you don't want to prolong your life if you can't talk with the doctors yourself. So this is done so that if you get too sick to say anything, this is what I want done. Do I want to be resuscitated or not? So those are things you have to consider as a living will. Then there's the power of attorney. And that's not necessarily an attorney, but so if you become incapacitated or overwhelmed, like just say you just need help and you want to assign someone you will appoint someone, a person or an organization that manages your property, your financial and your medical affairs if you become unable to do so. Okay. Then there's a difference. There's a conservatorship. A conservatorship is a broader appointment. It usually comes into play when a person has fallen ill and cannot make any provisions. It involves a court hearing. The main difference is that a power of attorney can be initiated by you while you're still able to do so. A conservatorship comes into play when someone else has to make that decision for you. Again, think about these things ahead of time. And if you ever should fall into a situation where you need a conservator, you can actually think about that ahead of time, okay? The next thing, when you pass away, now this is the part that I guess when people think of estates, that's what they think of. This is the part we want to avoid. We don't want to think about it. Nobody really wants to sit down and, but it's reality. And given where we are in society today with this pandemic, you wanna think about these things because it's stressful enough to lose someone. So you have to get into the nitty-gritty of how to do this. Insurance. Again, upcoming segment, make sure you tune in for that. But who are the beneficiaries? Who are you leaving your insurance benefits to? Beneficiaries have to be named in your policy. Their contact information should be there. So make sure that you shore up and know what your insurances are. and who you would like to leave those to. Then if you are employed and you have a pension, who's going to benefit from that should you pass away? Those people have to be named. One thing I will say is that if any one of those people should precede you in death, if they're minors or something changes, you can revisit those designations and make sure that they're clear. If, like, say you leave it to your mom, but now you're married, you have to change it to your spouse. Take care of those things as soon as you can so that there's no confusion should something happen to you. Then there are investments and annuities. Again, that's a whole nother segment. I'm not totally versed in those things, but you definitely want to make sure that when you make investments, if you should subscribe to annuities, you want to be clear on who gets what and how they're structured should something happen to you. Then your last will and testament. When it comes to beneficiaries on insurance and pension plans, those are pretty cut and dry. They don't necessarily go into your will, depending on how your will and your estate is structured. You have to seek legal counsel to see how that would work. But usually insurance beneficiary, that person gets a check. We don't wait for probate, all that stuff. So, but then your funeral arrangements and instructions and your last will and testament, those are your wishes. You have to say, who do you want to handle your funeral? Where do you want to be buried? Where are these papers? All of these things have to be outlined so that, and with a trusted individual, you can seek an attorney. And there are some funeral homes that actually will sit with you and help you draft the proper documents to do this. How is your funeral going to be paid for? There are insurance policies that just do that. Usually the payments go out automatically to the funeral director, but you want to be clear. You want to fund those things. You want to make sure those things are set aside. What casket do you want? Where's your plot? All of those things would go into funeral arrangements and instructions. And that's important because, again, you don't want your loved one to be grieving and having to make these decisions. So think about it ahead of time. And just a note to my family who might be on the line, don't you dare put me in a purple casket. Okay, so then here we go. Spouses and children. These are the people you need to talk to, okay? Have a conversation. It's a very difficult and it can be a very emotional conversation, but it must be had. Lay the cards on the table. Your spouse should know what things are and where they are. They should know what's happening. Now, there's an anecdotal term we use in legal circles called financial infidelity. It's a real thing. When your full disclosure on your finances and your accounts and your investments and your annuities, you guys have to come, the two shall become one. You have to stick to that principle when it comes to doing your estate and doing your finances, because it can be an entangled mess. And the only person that benefits when you don't take care of these things are lawyers. We'll take your money, but we shouldn't have to if you are diligent in making sure that you and your spouse come together on these things and have these conversations. Then your employer, there are death benefits available. Know what they are, know who they go to, make sure your beneficiaries are clear. Then if you're close to retirement or even well before retirement, know what your retirement is going to look like. Have a plan for that and know what happens to your benefits should you pass away. So have a conversation with someone at your job as to what happens with your benefits, any deferred compensation plans, anything that you have through your employer. Make sure you're clear on what that is and disclose that with your spouse. And then other difficult conversations. If you need a power of attorney, who will that be? If you need someone, you need to name an executor for your estate. So in other words, who's going to make sure that your will is executed properly? In some states, they call it an administrator. Some states, they call it an executor. But that person that's going to take your will document and say, okay, this is what she wanted, and they communicate with the court and they make sure it's done. Who's going to be that person? Think carefully, prayerfully, who that will be. Guardian, do you have minor children? And you don't have a spouse? Who will take care of your kids? De facto, it's going to be your spouse. Yes. But if it's just you and you're a single parent, who's going to take care of your children? That guardian person needs to be named. That's a careful conversation to have. Godparents are supposed to be that person, but you have to really be mindful of how you would structure that and who that would be. So identifying that person, getting them to agree, letting them know who they are, is a good way to go. Then insurance and investment advisor. This is a key person. I would even venture to say that that person might be a little more important than the attorney, because the insurance and investment advisor is going to tell you where your money is and where it goes should you pass away. And you have to be able to structure your finances so that you can fund the charitable stuff, so that you can pay for your kids' college based on what's going on. So structuring your insurance and your investments so that it covers what needs to be covered should you pass away. That's a very key point. Again, tune into what we've got coming up, because that is very, very important consideration. And then last but maybe not least, probably the most expensive, the attorney. So once you've made these lists, you've gone through the things that you need to go through, you will need an attorney that will help you navigate how to draft the proper documents according to your personal needs and according to the laws of the state and according to what what is feasible and procedural for wherever you live. That's important. You need to identify trustworthy people who will support your financial journey. In each of these roles, you want someone who's competent, objective, and impartial. You want someone that you can really, really trust with your information. And that's a prayerful consideration that you have to do when you're planning your estate. All right, so how do we get started? Get organized. That's not my strong suit, but I can help other people. I have a gift of encouragement. So put your personal information together. You should know where all of your social security cards, your identifications, all of that stuff should be secured somehow. And you can have your wishes drafted, but you can actually sit and write an outline so that when you go to your attorney, once you've gone through and asked yourself these questions, you can actually have an outline. So when you sit down with an attorney, you sit down with a financial planner and you tell them, this is what I have, this is what I need. The things that I went over, you have those, and then you can approach an attorney and an advisor so that you can draft the proper documents. The other thing we've kind of come across, which is a more recent concept, I've coined it give while you live. State laws that govern how to execute and structure your estate. So you have to seek counsel to make sure you do these things properly. But when I say give while you live, that means if you have something you want someone to have, if it's possible to share ownership while you're living, look into that. In other words, if you have, say you have a Mercedes and it's a vintage Mercedes, if you want to add your son or daughter or your uncle or whoever to the title, look into doing that ahead of time so that when you do pass away, it's not heartache, headache, and court costs to get that done. So that's just an example, but that's what I mean when I say give while you live. Then execute your documents. Again, this is where you're looking into having an attorney. Make sure your documents are drafted properly according to the laws of your state and your personal needs. And then securing the location. Sometimes you have to file it with the court. Sometimes you could keep it in a safe deposit box. Whatever the case may be, once those documents are executed, you want to make sure they're in a secure place, and your executor and your attorney know where they are. So when you're consolidating your information, all of the things listed and whatever you feel needs to be disclosed, you write down your wishes. If there are interests you can share while you're living, you do that. We covered that. Adding beneficiaries is important for your investment insurance, doing joint accounts, including heirs on deeds and business succession documents. These are all things to consider in the Give While You Live. So each state has laws that govern how to do these properly, and your individual needs will vary. So that's why this is just information. So how you go about planning your estate is the most individual thing you can do. So that's why I just wanted to provide an outline so that you can begin to start to think in terms of what should be included, and how to start off this difficult but very necessary process. So again, like I said, these are general concepts. Actual items may make up your plan will vary. How you structure will also depend on the laws of your state. And I hope this is what you need to get started. It is a tedious process, but again, I admonish you, when your family is grieving, it's not the time that you want them to have to pick up these pieces and go through your things. So please, I I admonish you. Yeah, I'm hoping this was helpful, but please just get started, even if you're single. Get started and consider what will happen if you get sick and what will happen if you pass away. And that's my time. So I guess we can do questions in the chat. And I hope that was helpful.
All right. Thank you, Attorney McCray, and thank you, Sharika, for giving us some valuable information. Question brought up in the chat, I think it's geared towards you, Attorney McCray, is how do I deal with royalties from publications?
Oh, okay. Not my expertise, but royalties from publications are one of the stickiest things when it comes to estate planning. What I would suggest you do is speak to an attorney that specializes in those things, because they would be able to outline how you would structure those and who would get those royalties going forward.
Okay, thank you. Another question we have here is for Sharika. Fraudulent calls, why are they calling your number? And how do I know if it's really Social Security?
Okay. All right. So what I usually tell people is, please hang up the phone on them. Social Security does not call you to tell you that your number has been compromised. The only time we would call you is if you have an appointment or special benefits with us, or we would send you a letter. So if they're calling you saying that we're from Texas and your number is being used in Antarctica, please hang up the phone. And I can give you the fraud hotline if you guys are interested in that, because I know they've been calling a lot of people recently. They even called me and I told them that I work for Social Security and they hung up the phone. So Just be very mindful. Do not give out your information, even if they say like you owe money or something like that. Yes, that's not us.
Oh, Shrika, another question for you. Do I have to pay for a social security card? And how many times can I get a replacement card?
Okay, so Social Security card, it is free. If you see somewhere that you have to pay, that is also a scam. And you can get a replacement card 3 times for the year, but in your lifetime it's 10 times. But if you have like a name change or any other exceptions, like we made a mistake on your card or anything like that, it doesn't count towards the 10 times.
Yeah. So I guess for me, I'm going to go over 10 times. I lose stuff. Freddie McCray, this is for you. Does your will override any beneficiary instructions that you may have written in your insurance documents?
No, it does not. In most instances, the insurance company will follow the instructions of your insurance contract. If your whoever's named on that insurance contract will get the funds. The only time that becomes sticky is if the person you've named as a beneficiary passes away before the insurance payout. So, but should that be the event, make sure you update your beneficiary. But the beneficiary on those contracts will get paid directly, and the will does not supersede that.
Interesting. Attorney McCray, another question for you. If I'm single and I have no one, no money, no house, do I still need a will?
Yes, you should. And the main thing you would definitely want to consider is those living contracts, conservator, all of the healthcare proxy. You want to do something like that. And again, as a will, as a single person, you want to make sure if there's someone you want to look out for, do that. Because, and the funeral instructions, you still have to do those things. Whether you have someone to leave something to or not, you should definitely have instructions because there's no wife to ask, there's no child to ask. So it's very important as a single person to execute those documents.
Great, great. So for everyone interested, the fraud hotline for Social Security is 1-800-269-0271. That's 1-800-269-0271. Sharika, another question for you. I still didn't receive my stimulus check from the CARES Act. What can I do?
Okay, so with that, we get a number of different calls. Just like to emphasize, Social Security and IRS are two different entities. IRS is the one that is distributing the stimulus check. So that's not coming from Social Security. So what I would tell people is either contact IRS or you can go to their website, which is www.irs.gov/coronavirus. And then you can check like your status, just putting in your information and seeing if it's in pending or they still didn't send it out yet. You can definitely check that way.
Another question for you, Sharika. How would I maximize my benefits if I decide to retire, I don't know, 1 year before, so that's age 65? We recommend I hold off to age 66 or go to age 70, or it depends on my health, my spouse, or location and cost of living. What do you think is the best?
So again, I feel like that's case by case. If you feel like you've been working all these years and you are just like tired of working, I say retire as soon as you can. Your health comes first. Um, but if you feel like you can hold on till full retirement, definitely do so. Because remember, if you wait until full retirement, we don't look at your income. So you can work as much as you want if you wanted to like keep like a part-time job or anything like that. Or if you don't want to wait until full retirement age, you can retire 67, 68, 70. Um, and each year your benefit slightly increases. Um, so I think, yeah, after 70, that it stops. It doesn't increase after 70. So if you want to hold out a little longer, you are welcome to do so. It is definitely your preference.
Yeah. Well, Attorney McCray, we have another question for you. If I have one, and when should I change it, my will? If I have a will, when should I change it? And why should I change it?
Okay. If you've already executed a will, kudos, hand clap. If you've already done that, if anything changes, I had a professor that said sex and violence, which is really crazy. If you have kids, if you get married, that would be the sex. The violence would be buying a house, getting a mortgage. Um, Anything that your children go from being a minor to going to being an adult, that would be an event in which you would change your will. So anytime your financial circumstance or your relationships change, those are the times when you would want to readdress your will. If you buy a new car, you let go of a car. Those are smaller incidents, but major incidents like marriage, children, and your children reaching the age of majority, those are main events that you want to revisit. So in general, change in relationships, change in your properties or investments. That's when you would want to make changes to your will.
Thank you. Another question for you, Attorney McCray. How much should a will cost? And can I find a quick online form?
Depending on your circumstance, there are online forms. But again, having a person to sit and have a conversation with is invaluable. Um, you would, again, seek out someone that you trust and that's competent. The online forms might work if you don't have a lot of stuff. If you, it's just you one in one house and one car and one kid. The more simple your quote unquote estate is, the online forms might be okay. But for the most part, you still have to have someone execute it. You've got to have people. You need, depending on the laws of your state, how many people need to witness your will, how you need to record it, can vary from wherever you are. So the form might get you started, but as far as finishing off, you might want to make sure you have good and competent people around you. Okay.
Do we have any questions for Attorney McCray and Shariko Walker? Attorney McCray, this question is for you. Can I hire you to handle my will?
First question is, where do you live? Because I'm only licensed in Connecticut.
Okay.
All right. So if you are a Connecticut resident, I'd be happy to help you out.
Oh, Maryland. Maryland.
Do you have any connections in Maryland, Janet?
Actually, I have one, but I don't know. I think she works for the feds, but we'll work it out. Well, I'll see if I can find someone. I can help put feelers out for you if you have no resources whatsoever, okay?
Question for you, attorney. Is your will any good if the beneficiary lives in a different country?
Yes, it is fine. If you know where that person is located, usually when you have people or property in other countries, your will probably need to be what we call probated in wherever you have people or property. So say if you live in the United States and you have people and property in the islands or wherever, whatever court system handles wills and death benefits down there would have to be notified, and that person would have to be notified. It's an expensive process, but I've had to deal with that once, but that's fine. It doesn't matter where they are. It's just notification has to go to wherever they are once you pass away.
Thank you.
Question to Sharika about the points. You said you need 35 points to 40 points to retire. Can she expand more on it?
Yes, so when you're retired, you need 40 credits. You need at least 40 credits to retire because that is counted to your work credits. So like I was saying, it's very important for you to work into Social Security. When you work into Social Security, we account of your credits and you earn 4 credits each year. So that's 10 years of work about. And then in order to put together your monthly benefit for retirement, we look at, I think it's the highest of your work earnings, and that determines your retirement benefit. So basically, the more you work into the system, the more you get into your benefit. I hope that answered your question.
Sharika, one more question. Can you explain about the Social Security of how it works with if your spouse retire, which benefit would you acquire more, that who makes more money and on your spouse part of it? Or can you get your husband Social Security or your spouse Social Security?
So, like I was saying, in order to get that program, and again, I know just a little bit about it, but spouse, you have to be married for 10 years or more. And if you both are retiring, we have to look at each of your amount and see what benefit is more advantageous to the other person. So say if you and your wife were working and you reached full retirement age and she basically worked more than you did, you can basically we can look at her benefit and you would be entitled to that. So you can hold off on your own benefit if you want. But again, we have to look at what is more advantageous to each spouse.
Sharika, we have another question here for you. Says, I am always confused about Medicare. Is Medicare basically a supplement for medical insurance? What actually does it cover?
Okay, so just to let you know, Medicare and Medicaid, two different programs. Medicaid is funded through the state, and Medicare is federal. So Medicare is basically a medical health insurance for those who are retiring or turning 65. So for you working and you're reaching that retirement age, you are most likely not going to have that medical carrier with your employer that you had. So that's when Medicare Part A would kick in, and you need that immediately as soon as you turn 65. Now, say if, for example, like my mom, she retired at 66, I think, and then she wanted to keep her part-time job. So she applied for Medicare Part A, but held off on Medicare Part B because she already had her employer's insurance. So Medicare Part B kicks in if you stop working and you don't have full coverage anymore. And I know that sometimes can get confusing because it's like case by case, but definitely know that once you turn 65, you have to sign up for Medicare Part A. If not, you can be penalized, there can be fines and stuff like that. And then Part C,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Part C is Advantage Plan. I'm not really 100%, that's not my expertise, but I know you can add along with your plan. So if you have Part A, Part B, you have the option to add on Part C and Part D.
Another question here, does self-employment contribute to the 40 credits?
Yes, it does, but when you're self-employed, you have to make sure that you're reporting and filing taxes so we can have record of that. If you do not file taxes, we won't know that. So very important to...
What tax do they need to file? What tax do they need to pay?
Ray, you want to help me with that one?
It's called the self-employment tax. So it's, in essence, you as a self-employer have to pay the payroll tax, not just your 7%, but you have to pay the full 15.3%, and you'll be covered.
And then another thing to keep in mind, I know a lot of people like self-employment, yeah, that is good and all, but remember, if you're working and it's not in the books, your 40 credits will not count. So you could be in this country working for 10 plus years, but you were with an employer for like 2 years, would be like, you don't have enough credits. So just making sure and telling your loved ones, working under the books, yes, you're getting that money now, but you need to look further down in the future if you want to be entitled to Social Security.
Question, Counselor, to Counselor, when do probate come in effect? If you have a will or you don't have a will? This is to the lawyer. Attorney.
Okay, so probate court is the court that handles these types of affairs when someone passes away. What happens with the probate court, and also too, depending on what state you're in, once a person passes away, whether you have a will or not, a probate file has to be open, so the court has to be notified. If you live in Connecticut, the probate court of whatever town you live in would have to be notified of your death. And then there are guidelines as to whether or not you have to go through them or not. And it usually hinges upon whether you own property, and if so, how much that property is worth. So the guidelines vary from state to state. And but when someone passes away, usually you have to approach the probate court and let them know that a person has passed away. And say, for instance, you have a house in Connecticut and one in Montana. Guess what? Probate court in Connecticut and Montana have to be notified that you passed away. So those are things you have to consider as well. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes, it's clear. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question for you, Sharika. How can I find out the total number of credits I have to date?
Okay, so like I was saying, you can definitely sign up for a My Social Security account online, which you can go to www.ssa.gov, and you can set up an account, put in your information. It's gonna ask for a username, password, and it's gonna ask you some security questions just to identify you. And then under your account is gonna tell you basically like your work information and what we have on file already. And if you have problems with that, you can definitely call us, call your service office, and we can tell you over the phone, or we can kind of help you with getting online access if it's any problems.
One question for you, Attorney McCray. Let's say you have an asset, a rental property, and you have a will, but you decide to place that rental property in a trust. Does the will supersede the trust, or does the trust supersede the will, or is the date of execution that dictates that?
Okay, that is not my area of expertise, but usually the wills usually a will address your trusts. So what would happen, from the limited knowledge I have, you would set up the trust, but I believe the will supersede it. Seek better counsel, because again, that's not my expertise, but you definitely want to set up trust so that your things are handled properly, depending on what your situation is. Again, that's one of those things where it's very individualized and it's very specific to the state, the locale, the type of property, and so forth and so on, and what type of entity it is. So I would suggest that you seek counsel on that to make sure it's structured properly.
Thank you. For information about the amount of credits, you could see www.ssa.gov. That's www.ssa.gov. Oh, question for you, Attorney McCray. How do I deal with a business in estate planning?
Okay, again, it depends on what type of business you have. It can, the LLC, sole proprietorship, or whatever type of structure it is. When you set those up, you need to make provisions in your business documents as to what's supposed to happen should you pass away. And again, it depends on the type of business and so forth. So again, that's one of those sticky things where you're going to need to get a business lawyer, a tax lawyer as well, to that's familiar with those things to make sure you structure that properly when it comes to your will. Your will should mention, address those things, but how to specifically word it and address it, you should seek someone that knows how to set up business entities so that it's done properly, because it depends on so many different factors.
So it's an LLC. So does that, is it the agreement of operations will have that information?
Right, yes. Those have to be drafted in your structure document, okay, as well as your will.
Okay.
Oh, I had a question. So for the healthcare proxy, you have to do that through a lawyer, or is that a little bit is not like?
Either one. Either one. Some hospitals will. There's hospitals that'll help you do that. There's social workers that let you do that. It's a it's a pretty standard form, but you can. It's not as formal a document, but you can definitely. That's one of those forms you could probably download it and go talk to a lawyer and make sure you did it right. But that's something that's very pretty standard, and you should be able to do that on your own. Again, the rules of executing it and making sure it's signed properly all vary. I believe Connecticut just needs a notary, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely, if you don't do anything else after today, take care of that. Okay, take care of the healthcare proxy and talk to a lawyer about a living will. Again, those can usually there's social workers at hospitals, but you don't want to get to that point. So you can look at one like a form and then talk to a lawyer about making sure it's done properly.
And what would you recommend for someone that's my age, 27, 26?
Be clear. Like I said, those minimum things. Like if something were to happen to you, if you're 27, you're young, you're single, where's your support system? Who's going to help you and who's going to be there should you be incapacitated? Figure out who those people are going to be, and do the bare minimums, because long-term illness it can happen at any age, and in this pandemic, you want to cover yourself. You want to cover yourself.
A question to the social work, Sharika. Can you expound again on the when you retire from working and you could still work and get paid? You said it's a different age bracket. Can you expound on it a little bit more?
So are you talking about if you can still work when you retire, or?
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I was saying is, if you decide to retire for retirement age, depending on your birth year, once you hit that full retirement age, you can work as much as you want. We don't look at your income that's not hindering you. But if you decide to retire early, then that's when we would look at how much you're making. So the limit for this year is if you're working and you want to retire early, the limit for this year is 18,240 for the year. So if you work over that limit, then we would reduce your benefit, and we would withhold $1 for every $2 that you're over that 18,000, if that makes sense. So again, like I said, it's up to you if you want to retire early, or if you want to wait that full retirement age, or wait until 70 and get a little bit more on your benefit. It all depends on your preference.
Sharika, what is the retirement age now? Some people say 62, 65, 67. What year would you born to determine what age bracket you would retire?
So again, it depends on your birth year, but I know if you were born 1960 and later, your full retirement age is 67. And the 62 age is your early retirement, that first year you could retire if you want to. So before that, we don't look at if you're 50, 51, 59. No, we look at 62. 62 is when you're first eligible for early retirement. So looking at that birth year, that determines your full retirement age. And like I said, mine is 2060. I'm a little bitter, but it's okay.
So, Sharika, so they go by a percentage, like say if I retire at 64, 62, they go by a percentage, like 70% of your Social Security, 80%. How did they determine or what you're going to get for your retirement monthly?
They determine how much you've worked into the system. So,
okay.
like I was saying, the more you work, the more income you have, the more it puts into Social Security, and that's your higher benefit. Hope that answered your question. Oh, and I also wanted to say, and I working here, I just know that if you're a teacher, sometimes you're, I know teachers, some teachers have like a separate pension or a separate account with the Board of Education or with the state. So definitely look into that, because I know certain teachers, they don't pay into Social Security. So that's something to talk about with your employer. Because a lot of people come to us like, why I don't have a lot of benefits or why I only get this much, is because sometimes they have different plans set up for teachers in the school system.
Sharika, sorry to ask a question again. But so you said if you're born in the 50s, between 50 and 60, then you could retire at 64 or 62?
So like I said, it's so everybody across the board, 62 is early retirement age, but the full retirement age is depending on your birthday. I did have a chart. It showed like the different years of birth. So I think my mom, she's 1954, I think, or 52. So her full retirement age was 65. So you have to look at that birth year in order to determine your full retirement age. But across the board, everyone early retirement age is 62.
Sharika, so if you retired, say you retired at 64, 62, and you're collecting your Social Security, and then you reach the age of like 67, 68, would you then at that point get your full Social Security, or they still kind of, how would that work?
So once you claim that that early retirement age, your benefit doesn't increase dramatically. It doesn't, like, it's not set up where, oh, if I retire early, I would get my full retirement money at 66. Like, no, once you claim that, that's it. It might go up a little bit every year based on the cost of living, but that's it.
Okay. Another question here for Sharika is, where online can we find that chart that tells us the full retirement age based on our birth year?
I know on the website, it has like a little search bar, so you can type in like retirement age chart or just retirement age, and then it'll show you the different birth years of your retirement age.
So this website is ssa.gov?
Yes, everything you can get there on that website.
Okay. We'd like to thank Sharika Walker and Attorney McCray for giving us some very useful information my mind was blown. From Sharika, I've learned that at 2035, we're going to run out of money for Social Security and up 79%. So we need to go out and tell our congressmen, our senators, hey, get on the ball, man. Our Social Security will run out in 15 years. What are you guys doing? Right? For Turner McRae, we learned that we need to plan as soon as possible for the eventuality of moving on from this life. So thank you all for coming, and I hope you learned something that you can apply right now to your situation, so you could have your financial wellness move to prosperity. Next Sunday at 2, that's August 2nd, our topics will be debt consolidation and decision between renting versus buying. So hope to see you then, and have a great week.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Hope I answered everything.